On the 10th of February 1996, the chess playing community was stunned. The chess grandmaster and reigning world champion Garry Kasparov was beaten by a computer program built by IBM called Deep Blue. It rocked the chess playing world. But over 200 years earlier, a chess robot had astounded the chess playing world by playing human players, even beating famous historical figures such as Napoleon Bonaparte and Benjamin Franklin. In today's episode, we look at the story of the Turk. Hi and welcome back to the Historical Crimes and Criminals podcast. I'm Steve, your host. Chess is the king of all board games, pardon the pun. Easy to learn, but devilishly tactical and layered. It emerged in India around 1,500 years ago and was then known as Chaturanga. War was a constant reality of the ancient world, and the game was a simulation of warfare. Chaturanga means the four divisions, a reference to what was then standard components of the Indian army, namely infantry, cavalry, elephantry, and the chariots. Around 600 AD, Chaturanga reached Persia, where it became known as Shatranj. Persia was later conquered by the Muslims, who then brought Shatranj to Europe through Spain and Italy. Shatranj then spread wildly in Europe, and by 1000 AD it had shed its Indo-Arabic characteristics. A few pieces were replaced with new ones, and sometime in the 15th century, chess took the modern form that we know now. In literature, we find chess in many stories and novels. Philip Chandler's Marlowe loves chess, but never plays against anyone. He always has his chessboard set up in his apartment, on which he plays solo reenacting famous games and chess problems. We also see Julian McLaren Ross's protagonist become obsessed with chess in the catchily titled short story, The Boy Who Might Have Been Chess Champion of the World. Walter Tevis had already written one of the 20th century's iconic novels, which would become a cult film of the same name, The Hustler, turning Paul Newman into a superstar. He then set his sight on chess with The Queen's Gambit, which, at long last, was recently turned into a TV series, and furthermore saw a resurgence in the popularity of the game, with many stores selling out of chess sets, and a boom in that most modern of mediums, chess apps being downloaded. In Stefan Zweig's novella, Chess Story, travellers are on a ship from New York to Buenos Aires. They find out that they are on board with the arrogant world chess champion who beats them all, until a mysterious stranger steps in to advise them. It's definitely a novella worth seeking out. Tragically though, in 1942, 2 days after delivering the manuscript, Austrian Zweig and his wife committed suicide in despair over the fate of Europe. Chess has always been popular in prisons, and we actually have many famous prisoners who were quite accomplished players. Ian Brady, the Moors murderer, would daily play the St Albans poisoner Graham Young at Parkhurst Prison on the Isle of Wight. And Reginald Christie of 10 Rillington Place infamy would beat his warders whilst awaiting execution in Brixton Prison. Lord Kames was a judge with a macabre sense of humour In the 1780s, in Ayrshire, he regularly played chess with Matthew Hay, a farmer and sometimes smuggler, at the local tavern. When Hay murdered someone, he was found guilty by his former chess opponent, who, when sentencing to death, said, "I guess that's checkmate, Matty." In 2007, a Russian serial killer named Alexander Pshushkin was arrested and charged with 49 counts of murder, although some believe he had already claimed up to 60 victims. He was named the chessboard killer for his bizarre statement that he wanted to kill 64 people, one for every square on the board. After suffering a head injury during his childhood, he was noted to be hugely intelligent and volatile. Possessing a deep interest in chess, he would play many games at home and in a local park. Turning increasingly to alcohol, his anger and resentment grew, and he began to kill, with his methods being both brutal and disturbing. Chess sets come in all shapes and sizes, with everything from competition standard to Star Wars, Simpsons, and Sherlock Holmes inspired pieces. The most expensive set, made to buy, is valued at over $9.8 million. This is the Dual Royal chess set, which was created in Great Britain and commissioned by the Royal Jewel Company. It's made of gold and platinum. It has diamonds, emeralds, rubies, pearls, and sapphires. The king piece alone weighs 165 grams and made of 18-carat yellow gold and has a spiraling midsection graced by 73 rubies and 146 diamonds. But certainly more valuable chess pieces can be found in private collections and museums. Perhaps the most famous are the 82 pieces which are seen at the British Museum and the 11 pieces at the National Museum of Scotland. They are collectively known as the Lewis chessmen. The chessmen were discovered in 1831 on a sandbank on the west coast of the Isle of Lewis on the Outer Hebrides of Scotland. Most pieces, being made of walrus ivory, they are thought to be made in 12th century Norway and taken to the Outer Hebrides, which, at that time, was under Norwegian rule. When the chessmen were uncovered in 1831, one knight and 4 warders were missing from the 4 sets. In June 2019, a warder piece had gone unrecognised for the last 55 years, emerged in Edinburgh and was purchased at Sotheby's for £735,000 the following month by an undisclosed buyer. But sold many times, most of the pieces have eventually ended up in the 2 museums, and to say they look magnificent is an understatement. In the first Harry Potter film, the male leads are seen playing wizard's chess with replicas of the Lewis chessmen. By the 18th century, the centre of European chess life moved from southern Europe to France and Britain. The centres of chess activity in this period were mainly coffee houses, with main stage being the Café de la Régence in Paris and Simpson's Divan in London. Its popularity was supreme, and to be known as a great chess player was to hold superstar status. And it was man versus man. Well, until the automaton took centre stage. Wolfgang von Kempelen was born in present-day Bratislava in 1734. In his lifetime, he was a talented engineer and inventor. He constructed steam engines, water pumps, a pontoon bridge, patented a steam turbine for mills, and even a typewriter for a blind Viennese pianist. But he's best remembered for his chess automaton, built in 1769, known to the world as the Turk. It was first presented at the Viennese Palace in 1770 to Empress Maria Theresa, and the Turk immediately became a sensation with its ability to play excellent chess players and mostly win. The machine consisted of a life-size model of a human head and torso with a black beard and grey eyes, and dressed in Ottoman robes and a turban and holding a long clay pipe. The cabinet was about 4 feet wide, 2 feet deep, and 3 foot high. Placed on top of the cabinet was a chessboard which measured 18 inches on each side. It had 2 front doors and 2 rear doors. Before each performance, the doors were opened one at a time to satisfy the audience. No one could hide inside. What they saw was complex machinery, glistening brass wheels, levers, and gears. The Turk's clay pipe was removed when the game started because the left hand also moved the chess pieces. Astonishingly to the onlookers, the Turk's head would move side to side, contemplating a move. Then arm and hand would rise, advance above the board to the piece to be moved, descend, grasp the piece, and convey it to its new square. The Turk would always play white. The first person to play against the Turk was Count Ludwig von Compensel, an Austrian courtier at the palace. Along with other challengers that day, he was quickly defeated, with observers stating that the machine played aggressively and typically beat its opponents within 30 minutes. Von Kempelen then toured Europe in 1783, beginning with an appearance in France in April. Upon arrival in Paris in May 1783, he was displayed to the public and played a variety of opponents, including Benjamin Franklin, the then ambassador to France from the USA, whom it beat. Following his tour of Paris, Kempelen moved the Turk to London, where it was exhibited daily for a 5-shilling fee. After a year in London, Kempelen and the Turk travelled to Leipzig, stopping at various European cities along the way, with amazed audiences watching the machine beat most opponents. Von Kempelen refused to explain how he'd created the Turk, and many articles and books were written theorising how it could operate. One theory came from mathematician Karl F. Hindenburg, a professor at Leipzig University, who considered that the Turk functioned through a combination of mechanics and magnetism. Others were sceptical. British author Philip Dickens said an automaton couldn't be passed as a chess player. He rejected the possibility of the chessboard being manipulated from distance, magnetically or otherwise, as many others believed. However, he proposed that the cabinet concealed a child of 10 to 14 years who was exceptionally talented in the game of chess. Von Kempelen died in 1804, but in 1805 his son sold the Turk to a Bavarian called Johann Malzel for 10,000 francs. And the Turk's most famous games took place against French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte in Vienna in 1809. The game was described as the following. The Turk sat in its cabinet and Napoleon sat at a separate chess table. Napoleon's table was in a roped off area and he was not allowed to cross into the Turk's area, with Malzel crossing back and forth to make each player's move and allowing a clear view for the spectators. In a surprise move, Napoleon took the first turn instead of allowing the Turk to make the first move. But Maslow allowed the game to continue. Shortly after, Napoleon attempted an illegal move. Upon noticing the move, the Turk returned the piece to its original spot and continued the game. Napoleon attempted the illegal move a second time, and the Turk responded by removing the piece from the board entirely and taking its turn. Napoleon then attempted the move a third time, and the Turk responded with a sweep of its arm, knocking all the pieces off the board. Napoleon was reportedly amused and then played a real game with the machine, completing 19 moves before tipping over his king in surrender. Over the following decades, the Turk would now appear across Europe, always profitably to by a now rich Maslow. During an 1819 tour of the United Kingdom, the Turk even played with a pawn handicap, but still ended the tour with a record of 45 victories, 3 losses and 2 stalemates. A North American tour took place through the 1820s, with matches being played in Boston, New York, Philadelphia and Richmond. Maslow eventually took the Turk on his second tour of Havana. Maslow then died at sea in 1838 at the age of 66 during the return trip. The Turk then changed hands a couple more times, and then it was stored in the National Theatre in Philadelphia. But on the 5th of July, 1854, a fire burnt down the theatre, and with it, the mysterious Turk. And then, the son of the Turk's last owner finally told the secrets of a chess hoax that had lasted 84 years. Dr. Silas Mitchell elaborately revealed the secrets of the automaton chess machine in a series of articles for his 1860 magazine, Chess Monthly. During performances, a concealed operator, the best chess player available, sat inside the cabinet, his upper body left, legs extending right, and throughout his existence, the Turk had 16 very skilled operators who were obviously well paid to keep quiet. The machinery occupied the front third of the cabinet, leaving space for the operator behind. For audience inspection, the drawer, which also contained the chess pieces, was opened first, enabling the operator to lower his legs behind the drawer. With the legs concealed, the right door was opened for inspection and closed. The operator then bent his knees up and moved his body right. The left front and rear doors were then opened, and a lit candle was displayed at the rear, and it was visible through the machinery. The doors and drawers were then closed and the chess pieces set up. The base of each chess piece on the Turk's chessboard consisted of a strong magnet. The board itself was thin, and each of the 64 squares had on its underside a small iron ball suspended by a short thread. Each chess piece standing on the board therefore attracted the iron ball beneath it, but when the piece was lifted, the ball dropped. In this way, the concealed chess expert monitored the moves and duplicated them on a second chess set he had inside the cabinet with him. And by using levers, the concealed player operated the Turk's arm and hand to grasp the chess pieces and move them. And that's the story of the Turk, an almost forgotten tale of fraud from history. And after compiling this episode, I decided it would be disingenuous not to download a chess app and have a few games. And having not played for almost 25 years, I wasn't surprised to be soundly beaten. Chess really is a skillful game, but one in which you have to stick to your own level. Some of us are to be found splashing around in the toddler's pool, but it's rewarding nevertheless when you finally win that first game. Well, that's it for another episode of the Historical Crimes and Criminals podcast. I hope you enjoyed that one, and if you did, leave a review, join me on Twitter, and should you want to buy me a coffee, or indeed a beer, you'll find the coffee link in today's show notes. And until next time, bye bye.